From the Detroit Free Press, I'm Robin Chan with today's voice briefing. It's Tuesday, September 5th, 2023.
This is Detroit Free Press auto critic Mark Phelan. 171 people chipped in $100 each to save a key piece of Detroit's origin story and of American history. The nondescript building they bought on Piquette Avenue in Detroit's Milwaukee Junction neighborhood was the birthplace of the Model T and a cornerstone of a hive of invention and investment that was the early 20th century's Silicon Valley. When they acquired 461 Piquette Avenue, the building was a crumbling wreck. No roof, no windows, no utilities. You never would have known that it was the birthplace of the Ford Model T, which went into production in 1908. In less than 10 years after that, more than half the cars in the world would be Model Ts. Henry Ford and 5 20-something engineers had created a car almost anybody could afford, a car reliable enough to replace the faithful horse. Today, the Piquette Plant Museum recreates the room they worked in, and Henry's office, and steps in the moving assembly line they created, the key to making millions of cars a year. The museum also contains dozens of historic cars, including number 220, one of the earliest known surviving out of the 15 million Model Ts Ford would build. The museum's also full of goofy charm, from vintage car horns you can hear to a photo of Henry's 14-year-old son Edsel, who looked less than thrilled at being dragged into the family factory when he could have been out in the street playing stickball with his buddies.
This is Nusrat Rahman with the Detroit Free Press. About 60 years ago, the construction of the I-375 freeway decimated the thriving Black neighborhoods of Black Bottom and Paradise Valley, displacing families and uprooting businesses. Decades later, state and federal transportation departments are pumping millions of dollars into replacing the freeway with a street-level boulevard in an effort to connect the surrounding areas and spur economic development. But as those areas see new investment and development, it's also important to address the economic inequities inflicted upon Black Detroiters and take steps to generate wealth for those who lost it. That's according to a new report released Thursday from the think tank Detroit Future City. The report calls for reparative investments in historic Black Bottom and Paradise Valley, which essentially means acknowledging the negative impact of urban renewal in the 20th century and designing programs to support current and former residents affected by those policies. To read more about the report and the recommendations and updates on the I-375 project, go to freep.com.
From educational inequity reporter Lily Altavina, the latest snapshot of how Michigan public schools are doing academically shows that while students have improved in the pandemic's wake, there is still recovery left to accomplish in the classroom. State M-STEP assessment scores show Michigan students improved academically in 2023 from 2022 in reading and math in some grade levels, and more so in math than in reading. But the percent of students statewide scoring proficient or higher in both key subjects largely hovered far below pre-pandemic levels. The assessments were taken in the spring, and the scores are just one view of how Michigan students are faring academically. But for reading in third grade, one of the most critical years for young learners to become readers, the statewide percent of proficient or higher scores slid from 41.6% to 40.9%. Michigan School Superintendent Michael Rice said in a news release that children in early grades were deeply affected by the coronavirus's impact on schools, noting, quote, "They had pandemic-influenced school years during grades kindergarten through second grade," unquote. For a deeper dive on what you need to know about the scores, check out freep.com.
Find more from the Detroit Free Press by visiting freep.com. That's FREEP.com. Thanks for listening, and you'll hear more from us tomorrow.